Thank you for joining us this evening for the February 15th, 2022 Monte Sereno City Council regular meeting. Before this meeting is called to order, I would like to point out a few house rules to assist council members, staff, and members of the public to successfully participate in this meeting. Council members, your microphone is live, so please keep your microphones on mute until you wish to speak. For tonight's meeting, we are using Zoom as the City Council regular meeting. At the bottom of the Zoom client, there are two icons, chat and raise hand. Please use chat only to report technical issues such as being unable to hear a council member speaking. Please use raise hand to be recognized by the mayor and enabled to speak to the council. To comment under oral communication or on any agenda item, you're allowed 3 minutes to speak per agenda item. Emails limited to 350 words can also be submitted to the city clerk and it will be read into the record. This word limit is set to adhere to the typical 3-minute time allowance. Only attendees using the Zoom application can use the raise hand option to comment. Participants calling in from a telephone will only be able to listen and cannot provide feedback and public comment. Lastly, because we are not all in the same room, all votes at this meeting will be taken by roll call.
Thank you. Councilmember Turner, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes in the orders of the day?
No, there isn't. And Mayor, I could do the roll call.
I'm sorry?
Let me do the roll call, Mayor.
Oh, of course. Please go ahead.
Councilmember Lawler.
Present.
Councilmember Newfold. Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mekachek.
Present.
And Mayor Elahi.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And so we don't have any changes in the orders of day. We have a proclamation on the Black History Month. And let's see, I can just read that, I suppose. As you know, across the nation, this month is being celebrated as the Black History Month. And the city of Monte Sereno is recognizing this as a History Month and recognizing the contribution to science, technology, business, arts, and cultural innovation by African Americans that have been essential to the progress of our nation. And the city of Monte Sereno is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community. Whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to proactive and strive for inclusive community in which all citizens are valued, respected, and recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community. And now therefore be resolved that I, Javed Elahi, Mayor of the City of Monte Sereno, and on behalf of the entire Monte Sereno City Council and the people of Monte Sereno, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2022 be the Black History Month, and encourage all residents of the city of Monte Sereno to join in this observation. So accordingly proclaimed. Thank you. Next item is oral communication. Are there any oral communication? Has the city received any oral communication from anybody? And if any member of the public wants to address the city on any matter that is not on the agenda, now is the time to do so. Do we have any raised hands? Doesn't look like it. So we go to the next item, which is written communication. Have we received any written communications?
We have not.
Okay.
We have not, Mayor.
Thank you. We go to the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to pull any items on the consent calendar? That's items 1 through 5. I don't see any pull. I do have a question on item 5, which is the LAIF investment report for December 2021. And notice we have not received any income for all our funds that are sitting there. if I could get an explanation on that, that would be appreciated. If Mr. Reynolds Samaro probably is the one to do that.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Hi, yes, Mayor. Yes, in terms of income, yes, we do receive income on a quarterly basis. The income from the last quarter of the year, 2021, we would receive that money in January. So I will post that in the next report.
Okay, and I probably asked you the same question last month, so thank you for clarifying it.
Yes,
I'll have to remember that.
sure.
All right, so is there anybody else who has any questions on any of the items on the consent agenda? Mayor Pro Tem Makachek, please go ahead.
Yes, on the expenditures under maintenance, our budget is 2.7 million, and just help me remember what's in that 2.7 million, because we haven't spent any of it or very little of it.
Be Mr. Samara.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yes, the 2.7 million represents most of the CIP, capital improvement projects that's in the budget.
And it's in 05-870 traffic safety.
Yes, part of it is categorized under that. Do you want a detailed breakout of that particular figure?
Yeah, yes, that would be very helpful. Just what are the big numbers in there?
Hold
Big
on, please.
projects?
Hold on. Okay, the biggest project is 2 million, which is the neighborhood improvement project, La Rinconada neighborhood project. And then we have 85,000 for the neighborhood improvement project, Dave's neighborhood. And then we have the Highway 9 safety improvement gap closure project, 600,000.
Oh, okay, I'll interrupt. I thought we had finished the La Rinconada project. Is it not finished?
Let's see. Well, we've spent year to date on all those projects, almost 600,000. I have to go into the detail and see what we've spent against those specific projects I just listed.
No, because I thought that's the one that we were under budget on, and I thought that was completed. We don't have to take up time in the meeting. I can deal with you offline on that. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, anybody else have any questions on any item between 1 and 5? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
And Mayor, have we taken public comment?
We have not. Thank you for the reminder. Does any member of the public wish to comment on any of the items on the consent agenda? That's items 1 through 5. Hearing none, I guess I will now look for a motion to approve the consent. Mayor Pro Tem Makachek.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second, anybody?
I'll second that.
Okay, I guess Councilmember Lawler's voice was heard before the hand was raised. So second by Councilmember Lawler. If you can go ahead, do roll call, please.
Councilmember Turner. Councilmember Turner.
Yes,
Councilmember Lawler.
Yes.
Councilmember Leopold. Mayor Pro Tem Makachek.
Aye.
And Mayor Lahi.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item we have is the new business, which is appointment of 3 people on the vacancy to the Better Street Commission. There are 4 applicants. All of us have received those applicants' application, and they were also posted. So we need to start discussing or voting. I guess the way to do it is probably first to see if the applicants are present, if any, and if they want to address us. So, and we can go by where the applicants were listed in the notice that was sent out. Is Mr. Barry Sheffen present? All right, the next person was Miss Shalini Saxena. Is she present? All right, doesn't look like it. How about Mr. Bob Lepcevic? Doesn't look like it. And finally, Miss Kim Hanrahan. She present. So it doesn't look like any of the applicants are present. Should we consider this application, or should we postpone it to hear from them directly? Well, if you can have I guess I should have asked for a staff report. Is there a staff report on this? Mr. Redcliffe, that would be you, I guess, reporting on it.
Sure. Yeah, the city clerk's office conducted a recruitment of for 3 vacancies for the Better Streets Commission. Applications were due January 31st. The city received 4 applications for 3 vacancies. 2 of the applicants are current or incumbents, and 2 are new applicants to the position. The applicants were aware of the meeting tonight and available for any questions you may have.
Yeah, were they aware that this was going to be heard today, I guess?
They were aware, yes.
Okay, all right. So how do you propose we proceed? Should we go ahead and vote on these applicants at this time, or do you want to postpone it to allow them to show up?
I will defer to the council on that decision.
All right,
I would also, the city engineer, Jessica Khan, is also on the line. This is the Better Streets Commission is under her, I guess, her purview. So I will defer to Jessica as to Ms. Khan as whether or not we need to postpone or if appointment should be made. I do know that the February Better Streets Commission was canceled because there wasn't a quorum of the commission. I'm not sure if postponing the appointments will defer another meeting. I will have to ask Ms. Khan on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment. Ms. Khan, if you'd like to add to that.
Yes, Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, terrific. So it'd be better if we did not defer this. As Ms. Radcliffe said, they were all aware of the meeting. We did have to postpone the February meeting, and there is business to be tended to with the commission. I will say that both of the incumbents have been very attentive. Mr. Chafin is the chair and also active with the VTA's Bike and Pedestrian Committee. The other 2 applicants both seem lovely, though I don't know. I've only met them. I do not know about their civic service.
Yeah, thank you for your input. So I get Mayor Pro Tem Exec, please go ahead. You're muted.
Yep, I just noted that. I'd like to say that I think this is going to be a very important commission in this year, and a couple of different things are going on. One thing is that our streets are one of our most expensive assets to maintain. And I think it's becoming increasingly important that we address maintenance and we don't defer it. And one of the items that brought this to my attention was I'm on the West Valley Solid Waste Authority, and they have the hauling contract that have the garbage trucks that go throughout the city of Monte Sereno. And we, the city of Monte Sereno, never had a road impact fee that was charged where the other 3 municipalities did. And I went back with Ms. Khan and getting some history on why the city of Monte Sereno did not charge a road impact fee. And I really would like to have information from the Better Streets Commission on their thoughts on a road impact fee so that I can take that, speak to council with it, and then also take it to West Valley Solid Waste, so it's included in the consideration of the new contract that's going in place basically January 1, 2023 or 2024, but it takes they have to go through an RFP process and all kinds of stuff. So I was looking at the historic information and we really need to work on that. So those are my comments as to the importance of it. The other thing is as we're going through our budget and our fees, I was looking at our current road impact fee, and it is not charged to the vehicles that are creating the impact. I think there's some opportunities to make some changes there, so that we're funding our roads more in line with how the usage is on them. So that's a long way of saying I think this is a really important commission, and I would like to nominate Mr. Chafin, Saxena, and Mr. Lapasevic. I think I probably mispronounced his name. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Lawler. So we have a motion on the floor. So if somebody wants to second that, that's fine. Otherwise, please go ahead with your comments. And you're on mute too.
I was actually thinking along the lines of making a motion to approve the incumbents, the reappointment of the incumbents, and then open up discussion for the other 2 applicants if other council members feel that that's appropriate. I think we should at least give both applicants an opportunity for discussion. I mean, for us to discuss them. So I make a motion to, I guess.
Let's see if we have a second on Mr. Mekchek's motion.
And perhaps consider public comment before we consider motions.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Attorney Gruen. At this point, Councilmember Luthol, please go ahead.
I was actually going to offer the second to Ms. Lawler's motion that we reappoint the incumbents first, but obviously first public comment, and then I think we would then have a motion in a second.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions on this particular item? If not, we'll go to public comment. Any member of the public wishes to address this matter? If not, I guess we bring it back to council for discussion. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Mekchek, but no second on that motion. Then a motion by Councilmember Lawler and a second by Luthol. So let's vote on that motion, which is basically at least appoint Mr. Chafin and Ms. Saxena to the Better Street Commission, and then we can come back and discuss see which one of the other 2 we would agree on. So if you could call the roll on that particular motion.
Councilmember Turner, I'll come back to you. Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Councilmember Luthol, Councilmember Turner. Okay, that's a yes. Mayor Pro Tem Mekchek
Aye.
and Mayor Lahi.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0.
All right, that's good. So now we can go back to discussing which one of whether Kim Henrahan or Mr. Bob Lepisevic should be awarded to the 3rd position. We had a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Makachek, which didn't get a second, so let's discuss that, see if anybody has any particular individuals they want to consider. Yeah, Councilmember Luthol, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have really strong opinions, but based on simply the information I have, which was reading these submissions, it looked to me, my preference would actually be for Mr. Bob Lepcevic. I think the engineering background, the energy and the excitement that he put into his application and his focus on biking, walking. Of course, everyone has those, but I thought he really expressed that well and sounded like he would be a good addition. So I'm kind of open to hearing if there are others out there who would like to lobby for Ms. Hanrahan in a stronger way, but I'm tending between the two towards Mr. Lapswick.
Right. Any other comments? And I don't think we need to take any public discussion on it before you vote, but Councilmember Lawler, you have your hand, so please go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that it's really great that we have 2 additional applicants. I want to thank both of these applicants for putting their names in because they are both really great candidates. They both have something to offer. Ms. Hanrahan, you know, she's been a long time resident here, and I value the fact that Bob is new and passionate about our community. So I don't think we can go wrong with either. I will support Councilmember Luthold's suggestion, as well as Mayor Pro Tem Makachek's suggestion in appointing Bob at this time.
Okay, any other comments? If not, I guess we have, I don't know if this is a motion by Mr. Makachek, a default motion of only one person is left. So go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem Makachek.
I would like to make the motion to appoint Mr. Lapcevic to the Better Streets Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Turner. Please call the, and I also think that's probably, I mean, it's great that we have 2 additional people. This is probably the most important. It has become a very important commission, considering how much money we're spending on the streets and how much more we'll be spending on other streets that are out there. So I think it's good to have such a large, high interest in this. So let's go ahead, call the roll, vote, please.
Councilmember Luthold,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Councilmember Turner,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Makachek,
Aye.
and Mayor Elahi.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Now, one question I had, there's also a youth commissioner or a youth member of this committee, and his term also expired in December 31st last year. I don't believe he reappointed anybody for that youth profile. Any comments on that as to why? Councilmember Lawler, please go ahead.
Yes, that's because the Youth Commission actually appoints who they want to serve on the Better Streets Commission. And it was difficult this year, and it's been difficult because of COVID. Kids are busy, and so I suggested maybe they have a rotating member. So that's something we can discuss at another meeting.
So we need to put that up for vote, hopefully next time if possible, so we can have a full board on there. So that'll be good. All right, thank you for clarifying that. The next item on our agenda is a heavy duty item that has to do with the consideration of annexation of at least 4 different, they call them islands in Monte Sereno. This is just a presentation at this point, so if you can have a staff report on that.
Mayor, I believe Mayor Pro Tem Makachek has a question before we start.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the next-
Sure, Mayor Pro Tem.
Given the work that I see with respect to streets and the West Valley solid waste and that contract, and I'm on the ad hoc committee, I was wondering if I could be a liaison with the Better Streets, if we need to have that formally, or if I do that informally. I'm not sure if what council's thoughts are on that, and or the city attorney and or the city manager.
I guess we'll need to ask Attorney Rudin if that needs to be put on an agenda, agendized and then considered.
I think the safest option is to put it on an agenda for future discussion.
All right. So I would suggest we put it on the agenda, and if there's anybody else who also wants to be considered, they can nominate themselves so we can have that up for consideration next time. Okay. Getting back to the agenda item on hand, was if there is any staff, could we have the staff report on that, please?
I believe the city manager is having issues with his audio. Give me 1 second.
No problem. Hopefully we can get that fixed.
City Manager Leonardis, are you able to hear us?
Yes,
Perfect.
here I am.
Wonderful.
So,
Please go ahead.
so we have the item on annexation this evening. I was just going to do a brief introduction on this item and then turn it over to Engineer Jessica Kahn, who has been putting in a lot of effort and has done a fantastic job putting together the report and presentation this evening. So Monte Sereno has, dating back to, I think it was 2006, and then again in 2009, has gone and explored the idea of annexation in the past. And at one point in time, there was a considerable incentive by the county of Santa Clara to annex these county pockets. And I think it was back in 2006, they even offered the opportunity that if cities would absorb these county pockets, they would pay the fees, the LAFCO fees, local area formation, as well as some road improvement fees to bring the PCI up to, I believe the number was 75%. We can get more into those details. At the times that Monte Sereno held the public hearings, the council, there was many public commenters. The council on both occasions received, I guess, much opposition to the idea of annexing these pockets, and therefore the council at the time voted to forego the opportunity. It was brought back this time because it was one of our strategic goals from last year, 2021, and I think Mayor Elahi was the one who brought up this idea during the strategic goals session, and we went back and revisited it to see if it made sense at this time to annex these pockets. And that's kind of the background story of it. It's one of our strategic goals. It's essentially, we're looking for direction this evening. We may have to hire a consultant if council were to wanting to complete this process this time, because it is quite involved. It will involve, of course, the work of Engineer Kahn, but as well as the city planner, and possibly we would need some outside help as well. I know that Mr. Rudin, our city attorney, has had some comments. There may not be the opportunity to receive all of the sales tax revenue, and we could get into the details on that. Not the sales tax, the property tax revenue, I'm sorry, that we may have been expecting if this were to come to fruition. And the importance of that is it would have helped offset the cost of assuming that the county does not want to pitch in for the costs of annexation to bring the roads up and the retaining walls and the items in the report. That might be a hindrance on the council's decision making, because it would be an increased cost to the city, as well as the annual maintenance of the roads and the retaining walls that would be required. And that is also, those figures are in the report, and we could expand on that a little bit. And I will let Engineer Khan take over from here for further presentation. And we will be available for questions after her presentation.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Engineer Khan.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you, Steve, for the introduction. By council request, staff has prepared the following staff report and presentation to aid in the council's discussion of the consideration of the annexation of the city's urban incorporated islands. Next slide, please. For those of you in the public who may be listening tonight who may not know, an urban unincorporated island or pocket is an unincorporated piece of land that is located within the city's urban service area. It may either be completely or substantially surrounded by the city and neighboring municipalities, but remains under the land use authority of the county, who is responsible for providing basic urban services. Next slide, please. In 2001, the state legislator enacted legislation that made it easier for local governments to annex these small urban islands within their jurisdictions that meet certain criteria, which are listed here. The Streamline annexation process requires a public noticing period and adoption of resolution by the city in lieu of an election. All of the city's urban islands meet the criteria for the Streamline annexation process. Next slide, please. Listed here is an outline of the Streamline annexation process. A flowchart of this process was also included as attachment 2 to the staff report. It is worth noting that the process from beginning to end may take up a year or more to complete. Next slide, please. In 2005, Santa Clara County LAFCO established their island annexation program that covers many of the costs of the annexation process and also includes limited public roadway improvements. As Steve mentioned before, the city has engaged in this process twice, and it is discussed in greater detail in this presentation. The next slide, please. So the city, as mentioned, has 4 of these islands, the first being MS1, which is the north end of Carl Avenue. Carl Avenue is mostly a public street in the city of Monte Sereno. The last third of it or so is a private street. And then also this area that is in the county is a private street. The parcels are 7 parcels zoned by the county for single family residential uses. So if the city were to annex this island, the city would not be responsible for roadway maintenance. It was never dedicated to the county for public use. If the city wished to make this a public street, the city would have to go through the process of getting grant deeds from these properties and several properties already within the city. Next slide, please. MS2 is straddles Saratoga Los Gatos Road. This is one of the larger annexation islands. There are 91 single family residential use parcels, 10 public roads, including the portion of Dave's Avenue, which is not in the city, and 2 private roads. Part of this island was annexed as part of the Montalvo Oaks development. All of the other roads besides Dave's Avenue in this area are rural residential roads of relatively poor quality. Next slide, please. MS3 is just south of MS2. It is 69 acres, 53 parcels, 4 public roads, rural public roads, and 1 private road. Next slide, please. The last MS4 is the newest urban island. It was included in February 2018. It is 4 small parcels, a private road, and one of the parcels within this area is already applied, is in the process of being annexed into the city. Next slide, please. So the annexation process, while subsidized by LAFCO, may also require other expenditures related to pre-zoning and CEQA documentation. This process also may end up with the city increasing its RENA allocations. Ongoing fiscal impacts of the island annexation include roadway maintenance and repair costs. This was included as attachment 6 of the staff report. As Steve mentioned previously, the county had offered to improve these public roads to a good condition. However, since this time, it doesn't appear that the city or the county, excuse me, has maintained any of these roads, and these roads are all now in poor condition. And it is unclear if the county would extend a similar offer considering it would be a much greater cost to the county to bring these roads into a good condition prior to annexation. Other ongoing fiscal impacts of annexation would include a potential increase to police services, because these would now be served by the Los Gatos Monte Sereno Police Department, and other just general municipal services provided by the city to its new residents. Next slide, please. Potential impacts to city revenues with property taxes is estimated in this table. It was based off assessed values of each parcel in the urban island as of June 30th of last year. Changes in property tax revenues would have to be negotiated with county prior to annexation, and the city may not receive all the revenues listed here. Again, it has to be negotiated with the county. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, the city has undergone this process twice, one in 2005 and again in 2009, for MS1 through MS3, as MS4 was not established until 2018. Both times the city engaged LAFCO in their island annexation program. Both times the city stopped the annexation process at the public hearing stage due to opposition of island residents. And the minutes of both of those 2005 and 2009 meetings were included in the staff report. Since this time, since 2009, the city has indicated to LAFCO on multiple occasions that it would not pursue annexation of urban islands without the support of the majority of island residents. It is worth noting that this is not required under state law, and that the islands are eligible for annexation without landowner protest or elections. Next slide, please. If the council desires to move forward with the annexation of any or all of these urban islands, staff will begin the preliminary task and community outreach efforts of the process. Based on the previous efforts, the council may wish to consider a community meeting with island residents prior to engaging LAFCO and the county in the process. And as Steve mentioned, the council may also wish to consider obtaining a planning consultant to provide expertise in this process. And with that, I am available for any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Engineer Khan. Anybody have any questions for Engineer Khan? Mayor Pro Tem Makachuk, please go ahead.
Yes. When I'm looking at the first one, which is on Carl Ave, I didn't understand, would we have to pick up the cost of improving the public roadway there, or would that stay the private roadway that it is, Ms. Khan?
The road would stay private as long as the city didn't accept it into the road system. So any private road at any of the islands would remain private roads unless the city desired to take them on as public roads.
Okay. My next question is, do we have to do all of these, or can we select certain of these islands to move forward with?
It's my understanding that you have to take a whole island as one, but you may take them separately. But I'll have the city attorney confirm that.
That's my understanding as well.
When I look at the second parcel, there's the piece that's north of Highway 9. I don't know if you call that hillside. Maybe you could put that slide up, please. Keep going. Yeah. Next slide. There we go. Whoop, back one, please. So this is MSO2. Could we, and this I guess is a question for the city attorney, where Highway 9 separates that northern part, could we just look at that piece? So that's a question for Mr. Rudin.
I think that you could I think it is possible that you could propose a partial annexation. I don't know necessarily how that would be received by LAFCO. I would need to look into that question specifically. I do know as a matter of fact that, each of these different urban pockets would at least need to be their own annexation process. So you'd be doing one process for each pocket that's being discussed this evening.
Understood. So I go through that northern part of the pocket on a relatively frequent basis, probably 3 times a week. And it's very different and it's very separate from the southern part. If you could go to the next one, please, the next pocket. One more, please. Lucky Road. That road, it's a very small piece, and I've cycled down that road on my mountain bike, and there's no way I could make it up that road. that is a very steep property. And someone's already wants to join the city of Monte Sereno in that pocket. So that's a comment and a question.
Yes, it is my understanding that one of those parcels is already applied and is in the process of being annexed into the city.
That's a very the slope density or whatever the calculation is. I think that'd be very high. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Turner, please go ahead.
Yes. I wanted to ask, well, let me make a comment first of all. I was around in 2006 and 2009 when this was happening, and it became very contentious with the residents, both in Monte Sereno and outside Monte Sereno. Hence, the council decided not to move forward. I don't know how the residents will relate to this, as well as those outside Monte Sereno, but we'll soon find out. One suggestion that I have is that we do an ROI on each segment to know how much it's going to cost. For example, Lucky Road, like you said, is pretty high in slope. Therefore, it'll probably cost us more money, and therefore the ROI wouldn't be in there, and therefore our priorities may change for that. The other point I'd like to make is also our arena numbers. The unincorporated part of Santa Clara, their arena numbers totaled 3,125, 828 very low income, 477 low income, 508 moderate income, and 1,312 above moderate. So we will be increasing perhaps our arena allocations as well. So we need to take a look at that to see, would that be an advantage to us or a disadvantage? I don't know what percentage of this unincorporated parts here to the total unincorporated Santa Clara is, but that is something that we should look at as well. I wanted to also make a comment, and I'm going to divert it a little bit here in terms of the approval from RENA for the housing element. I want to give you some information because it may relate to this later on. There are only 2 cities. Well, there's only one city right now that has gotten approval from RENA, and that is the city of Solana. And they have 1,300 residents, so half of Monte Sereno. And the way they were able to get approval for their housing element from HCD was to have a letter from each property owner saying, yes, I want to split my lot, or I want to rezone my lot. The rest of the cities are still in that process of getting their housing element in order. So these are some of the things that we need to consider as we do this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lawler, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, I think there's nothing we can do until we poll the residents of these islands and see if this is what they want. Secondly, just out of curiosity, Mr. Rudin, why wouldn't we get all the property tax revenue? Why would we have to negotiate with the county?
So I will answer your question, and then I will go back and answer Councilmember Mekachuk's question, which I now have the answer to. So with respect to the process, so property taxes are levied based on a county-wide pool, and they go into a county-wide pool where they're divvied and allocated to the various local government agencies in that county. So basically that 1% property tax isn't a property tax that is levied by the city, it's levied by the county. And pursuant to state law following Prop 13, it's divided pursuant to a formula that's typically established by the State Board of Equalization, which the lion's share of that typically goes to the school system first, and then it's distributed to the counties, the cities, the special districts who provide services to that territory. When territory is annexed, the state law on annexation says that you shall negotiate the transfer of property taxes that reflects that territory based on the amount of services that are going to still be provided, in that territory. So if the county still provides the majority of the services in that territory, as opposed to the city, then, maybe the city doesn't get as much of the property tax as otherwise it might. If the city's taking on a lot more responsibilities, then there's a lot there's more room to negotiate for a greater share. In the countywide pool, my understanding is that typically the city gets around 6% of the property taxes in the countywide pool. So I hope that helps.
Well, yeah, that's what I was really asking. Is I was under the impression it sounded like we might not get that 6%.
I think that the amount of property tax is just something that's going to need to be negotiated based on, our assessment of what our costs are and, what services the county is going to provide. And, perhaps the condition of the roads could ultimately be a, negotiating factor there.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Luthor, please go ahead.
Thank you. A couple of brief comments. One is reading in the staff report written portion, I just saw the sentence that says that Lucky Road is not a publicly maintained street. I'm wondering if that says that means we don't have, if we were to annex, we don't have to deal with it. Those are different words than a private street. So perhaps Engineer Khan can explain whether that adds up to the same thing, that were we to bring that in, we would not be taking on responsibility for that steep part of Lucky.
So my apologies, I did use privately maintained and non-publicly maintained interchangeably. So yes, Lucky Drive or Lucky Road is a private street that the city would not be obligated to maintain if annexed.
Okay, thank you. And then my other point is, I know that we always run into interested parties who are noisy and contentious, as it should be. People who care should bring their voices and speak up. At the same time, I wonder how much the presentation of the annexation and then what City Council heard and what they decided last time. I wasn't involved in that process on either side of it. I recall that there was noise about it, but I guess I'm interested in, as we go forward, making sure that people who are noisy don't overwhelm the quieter majority. So I'm interested in polling and finding out about how people feel, but I really don't want to know how the most passionate people feel. I'm interested in how the majority feels. So if we go forward, I would suggest that we find a pathway to get really good feedback from as many people so that we can tell what the majority thinks as we go forward. And I mean, one thing that crossed my mind would be, and I know this might be expensive, but it might be something to look into, might be to actually put the annexation of some of these larger sections, or maybe all of it, onto the ballot as we come up on the ballot. I'd be interested to know what the cost of that would be. And so people could actually vote rather than return a postcard or come to a meeting and make noise. So those are my thoughts.
I just wanted to just run a check by Attorney Rudin. I do live on Carl Avenue. So am I precluded from participating in this discussion, or can I go forward?
No, I think you can go forward with the FPPC regulations with respect to conflicts of interest based on real property have an exclusion for annexations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an important subject, and really a lot depends on what the neighbors and the people who are in these pockets want. But they also have to obviously be given the correct picture, because I mean, sometimes there's a knee-jerk reaction saying, I'm fine as I am, and going into the city may end up for me to pay more taxes, or it's going to cause more issues. And then also practically, one of the incentives that will be there for these residents is if the city is willing to pick up the tab for maintaining the roads, and if the city is not willing to pick up the tab, there's less incentive for some of these pockets to come in. The suggestion by Councilmember Turner about doing an ROI, I think is an excellent one. And I think some level it has been done, and some of the numbers, all the data points are probably not going to be available, but I think on balance, it'll help us review the different pockets and see what works. And as Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Makachuk suggested, we split one of those pockets into two, divide that up, and maybe we can do different ROIs on those, because one might not need as much as the other one. So if you can do that, that would be helpful. There is I think there's one more suggestion. See if I can find that. Councilmember Turner also, which had to do with the RENA allocation. So as you're doing the ROI analysis, you probably do a RENA analysis also to see if we have a plus or a minus. On the other hand, this whole SB9 thing might just give us a jump start, and those ABAG and those RENA things may not really matter. And I don't know if you actually need a letter from each homeowner saying they're ready to split the lot, because virtually SB9 has already split their lot. Interestingly, I attended a meeting of the Cities Association last time, and there was a professor from Stanford who's a land expert. And I asked him that question. I said, with the SB9 having passed, we've already done a lot split. We've already got two parcels for every lot. We already have 4 units virtually on every lot. So we're satisfying our RENA numbers. The only question is putting the right number in the right pigeonhole. You know, how many go into very low income and how many go into low income. So I'd like our planner, Ms. Perkins, also to think about it hard to see how we can do that. And we may have already met the RENA allocation. So these new parcels coming in may not have any effect on us. And I think that may be the way we confront that and just say, hey, we've already done the allocation. And the very low income is our ADUs, and some of the other numbers are met by some other sources. So that might take care of that. But I think that analysis should also be done just like the ROI analysis. The RENA analysis might be helpful also. I think that's a good thing Councilmember Turner brought up. And finally, the idea about meeting and consensus before we spend too much money is an excellent one. And whether we do it by setting up a community meeting, I have talked to some of my neighbors, not all of them, and at least I think one of them is on. Hopefully, we'll hear from him today. He's I saw him on the attendee list, because I know some of the at least one of my neighbors who in 2009 or something had opposed the annexation now appears to be for it. So some things have changed. I think they recognized that there's better services. I mean, the advantage of being in Monte Sereno, other than the name of Monte Sereno, is we're serviced by the Los Gatos Police Department, which I think has a better reputation or better to deal with for rather than the sheriff, which the county has to deal with. There is our permitting department is working very well, so it's easier to get permits. And then as far as the fire department is going to stay the same, so that's not going to have much of an effect. And then this we are answerable. I mean, we are right there. So if anybody needs to get anything done, they can come to our city meeting and tell us what we need to do. And also they can get the permits right away compared to going to the county. So there's some advantages that the neighbors have if they recognize that. On the other end, they might just say, we're fine the way it is. So probably having a meeting where we can get consensus, or maybe doing some kind of poll, maybe a first step before we spend too much money on doing this. You know, as much as I would like to get my Call Avenue thing done, I think it's still important that all the people do whatever they want to do and we follow the city. I don't think we want to get into any issue unless the ROI shows that there's tremendous benefit to the city. But I think it's going to be we will see a positive, but it'll take a few years down the road. And on the long term, it's better because then the city becomes a whole city. And we don't have pockets where you have two garbage trucks running the street, one for the city, one for the county. And you have two separate, climate trucks and one food truck and all that kind of stuff. So those are my thoughts. And I do see some more hands. So please, Mayor Pro Tem Maxtek, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. I was intrigued by Attorney Rudin's saying that he had an answer to my question. So I have a question, but I would like to hear his answer first, if that's okay.
So yes, looking at the statute, what staff are proposing are to use the streamlined process for annexation of unincorporated islands. That statute provides that if you're using the streamlined process, which avoids the need for any sort of protest hearing or potential for election, that it has to be the entirety of an urban island, basically. Now you can apply to annex other territory as long as it's within your sphere of influence to LAFCO, but that's a discretionary approval process. And additionally, LAFCO has to consider a whole bunch of statutory factors and provide for the opportunity for a protest hearing. And if there's more than 50% of affected occupants, protest, basically LAFCO cannot approve it. If at least 25% of people protest, then LAFCO is supposed to approve it subject to election. Otherwise it can be approved as long as LAFCO determines that it's appropriate. So there's a lot of, benefit in terms of doing the streamlined process because, it's going to be approved, and generally it's, remains within the discretion of council as to whether or not to do it. So.
Thank you. Well, I believe that piece that is north of Highway 9 is very different than the piece south of Highway 9. But what you're saying is those are not two pockets. I would define those as two pockets, but I guess that's just me. In any event, I do agree with the other comments by council members saying, if someone doesn't want to be part of the city of Monte Sereno, then I'm not sure that, if they don't want it to become part of Monte Sereno, then they shouldn't be. I understand that. And to Councilmember Leuthold's point, where are the most vocal people and do they represent the majority? And I believe, remembering back to 06 and 09, that most of those comments, and with respect to Montalvo Oaks, that was all south of Highway 9. So that's why I was very interested in separating those two. Thank you for answering my question. Those are my comments. And I would be very much interested in hearing what the public comment is on this afterwards.
Mayor, you're on mute.
All right, thank you. I guess somebody's on mute. Councilmember Turner, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. Khan. Are all the parcels single-family homes? Are there any of them commercial?
They're all zoned single family by the county, though I believe some of them are vacant.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment. I think in our last RENA cycle with our ADUs, we had mostly moderate income and above moderate income. I think the way we can get into the very low income and the low income is to have 20 units per acre or 30 units per acre. So in order for us to meet our RENA allocation across the board, we're going to have to think creatively about some of the things that we're going to do as we consider this project. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Yeah, that's going to be another huge thing to look at. Councilmember Lawler, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Turner, that was very interesting indeed. I think, because my question is truly, like, I understand how this could benefit residents, obviously, because they can get city services. It's pretty clear that the county is letting the roads go and probably expediting the annexation process for some of these people. So the benefits to joining the city obviously are great, but what's the benefit to us? So if we could somehow use this as a way to satisfy whatever we can do with respect to housing, I could see that. So a quick question for Jessica. When it comes to getting approval from, you know, when you poll residents, and we would have to poll the residents of the pocket, the island pockets, is there a threshold for us or for the county? I think Sergio said 25%, or I don't know what it is, but where you could approve it. Like, do you need 60%, 50%? What is that number? Do you know?
By law, the city does not have to poll them or have any vote at all.
Right.
So the city had indicated to LAFCO that they wanted the city wanted a majority of all of the island residents, but again, not legally required.
Right, I understand that, but based on how we treat our own residents, what is it for Monte Sereno? Is it 60%? So say, for example, if someone wants to get a speed bump on their street, right? What's the number of residents that have to be for it in order for that to happen?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Would we apply that same metric?
Typically, we go with 2/3.
Okay, thank you.
And so just for reference, the typical annexation process that is not exempt from, you know, protest or election, typically the requirement is that LAFCO has to have a protest hearing. And if half of people show up saying that they're in opposition, it can't be approved. So it's usually the burden is on the people who decide that they don't want to be annexed to show up to the protest hearing. And if at least 25 people show up, or 25% of people show up, then LAFCO has to order it subject to election.
Okay, thanks. That clarifies it.
Councilmember Turner, please go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to make one more comment, please. The Woodside, they were going to build homes in a certain area. However, there were a lot of mountain lions in that area, so they couldn't build ADUs. So I wanted to make sure that we consider the mountain lions or deer or possum, whatever, in the areas that we're looking at. So just a note for you, Jessica.
All right, sounds good. Any other questions for staff on this? If not, I think we can take it to the public. If any members of the public wish to address or have any questions on this matter. This is the time to find out a little bit more about the process. Okay, I don't see any comments from the members of the public. So we bring it back to council for discussion. I guess we were having some discussion, but we can have more at this time and possibly, oh, I do have a hand from one of the attendees. Let's see, who is that? Yeah, Mr. Goodell, please go ahead. You're on mute.
There we go. How about now?
Good, good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Mr. Mayor. You know who I am. I'm at the end of Carl Road. And what I'd like to see is this is something that has potential as a county resident. The ability to join the city definitely has some upsides. I mean, personally, what I would like to see is somebody from the city who can speak to what the upsides are and the downsides, come out and set up a group meeting for each of the groups, each of the annexation groups. And then that way, at least people have an idea and people can say, yeah, I want to join, or, I think it's a good idea, or I don't think it's a good idea. I was in a group over in Blossom Manor in a county where Los Gatos tried to annex it years ago. And it was a huge, big no for the city. And back then it was because the building department, county was much easier to get building permits through. So anybody who wanted to do any remodeling or construction was going to vote no, no matter what. I think the city of Monte Sereno has done a great job in improving their building department and their permitting process, so that is no longer a hindrance for people who want to do construction in the city, which is a big plus for anybody who wants to remodel their house or build a new house. So I think it would be great to have the city come out and say, hey, these are the things that are pluses, these are the minuses, and then people can decide what they want to do. That's basically my comment.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful. And yeah, it is. I mean, it's kind of, we'd like to make the city whole and incorporate areas that are in the county to avoid some of the things that happen because of such jurisdictions. But again, it's going to be it'll probably be a win-win for both. It'll be a push in some cases. So that's what we need to look at. Any other comments from any member of the public? Okay. All right, let's bring it back to council now. Any further discussions? Councilmember Lawler, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate Mr. Godot's comments. I think that's absolutely what we need to do. And I would suggest that we move forward with neighborhood meetings in those island pockets and inviting those neighbors of ours to attend and discuss this process and whether or not it makes sense for them.
Thank you. Any other comments? So how would we set that up if we were going to do neighborhood meetings? City manager Leonardis, maybe you can help us out with that. What would be a good way to set it up, or if you have any thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think a good approach to this would be to provide the data, because if we're going to set up neighborhood meetings, we want them to, the residents to be able to make a calculation. Of course, what was just mentioned is a compliment to the city, and we appreciate that. But economically, what does it mean for the city, and what does it mean for the residents? Whether the roads will be redone and who will be paying for those, because we have to consider the greater city. All the taxpayer dollars will be going towards potential road maintenance, road improvements over time. So I think the next step in the process might be to go get the data. How much tax revenue can we negotiate with the county if we were to go forward? Get all of our ducks in a row, so to speak, and then be able to present that data to the residents in a, of course, organized and credible fashion, so they can make informed, give us their input, make informed decision about joining. There is, the chicken and the egg thing. We could go to the residents and say, hey, do you want to annex? But if we don't have all of our answers, and whether it makes, good economic sense for us, then that might be not the proper approach. So those are my initial thoughts based on the speaker's comments. We do appreciate the compliments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Luthor, please go ahead.
Thanks. I was actually going to suggest as well, as you just did, reaching out to City Manager Leonardis. I think he's probably had the experience or been around with the Los Gatos's failure on some of its annexations and the reasons for that. So he brings some valuable experience as to the input that Los Gatos got there, as well as knowing the differences between Monte Sereno's situation. So So when it comes time to look at the pros and cons of joining Monte Sereno, we can really help spell that out for the residents when we have those meetings. I guess, and back to the other point about taking a look at whether this makes economic sense. As Engineer Khan pointed out, in prior years, getting the streets too good before it comes to us, I think was one of the threshold expectations of the county. And I think we need to know the answer to that question. Would the county promise to give these streets to us in good condition? Or would they give us enough money upfront off the top, not, oh, you may get it in the revenues later on, to bring those streets up? Because I think that's something we all on this council take very seriously, is investing in our streets, our pavement improvement. We've put so much energy into this. It's so expensive as a budget item. We don't want to blow it up with this. So I think my question and challenge, I think, in terms of as we begin to analyze, is this feasible to us, is to get that answer very, very much a commitment from the county as to what they will or won't do. Because if they're not going to do anything for us but give us a promise of an extra % in the future or 0.5%, it's not worth taking on millions of dollars of street work. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion. So on the one hand, from the city's perspective, we do our ROIs and our arena numbers. On the other hand, we need to approach the county to say, we're thinking about it. Do you guys have anything we can put in? Is there a person in the county that we can contact directly right now, or is that going through the county supervisors? Do you have any thoughts on that, Mayor Leonaris? Yeah, we can't hear you right now. I think you might be on mute. You're still on mute on both frames that you have showing up. All right,
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Mayor, for the question. We will make the correct contacts at the county to get the information you're looking for. And again, we may have to engage the services of a consultant and to bring this data forward. In Los Gatos, they were successful. There was the mention of the pocket of Blossom Manor and the opposition of annexing that. And just a little background on that. At the time, that was a pocket that was greater than 150 acres, would have required a vote of the residents. It was mentioned earlier in the evening, should we bring this to the residents and have them vote? But the last time I was in Los Gatos, and I was in your position as the mayor, we annexed, I think it was 48 of the 52 county pockets within Los Gatos without a vote. And the information that was gathered from the county and presented to the residents, and they did know neighborhood meetings, but they just presented it at the council meetings, was enough to satisfy the residents. There were a few speakers in opposition, but once they received all the information, the credible data, they were satisfied that it was beneficial to come into the town at the time. And so I suspect we will have a similar process going forward if we engage the right resources to do so.
All right, so the question is, do we need to hire a consultant now, or can we go forward with at least doing our, do we have enough resources to be able to present something to the neighbors in the county and to the Santa Clara County itself to see what kind of help they could give us?
I think the next step is to go out and contact the county. And if we need to engage a consultant to, get beyond the step where we go in and incorporate all the pockets, that would be like a land use expert, perhaps. We need somebody who might have the ability to negotiate the taxes and get into the details on how we can make it beneficial with the property taxes. And then we have to find out from the county directly if they would be willing to put forth funds for the road. So we have to do quite a bit of homework before we come back. So I don't have all the answers this evening, but I think the first step is we will engage someone at the county, our representatives, to help us with this process,
Yeah,
as well as we might engage someone on staff in Los Gatos to see where they went to go
Yeah,
about this.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent suggestion, because I mean, obviously we want to do it without having to expend any funds unless we know this thing is going to go move forward. And it's so both things, contacting somebody in the county and then doing our own ROIs and the arena issues. If we can have those perspective on those, that would help us, I believe. So we'll leave it up to you, and then you may want have someone work with you in discussing it with the county. I would be happy to join you in that. And is there somebody else on the city council that may also want to join that effort? I guess we can have two people on that effort. Councilmember Lawler, would you be interested in joining that?
Sure, I'll be happy to.
All right. So is that okay with everybody else? I guess for me and Councilmember Lawler to work on this? Or does anybody else feel strongly that they're to step in, which is fine? All right, and not having any objections to that, I think we can do it that way. So we'll look forward for guidance from you, Mr. Leonardis, and we'll make ourselves available when we talk to the city or to the county. Okay. Anything else? So for now, I guess we're tabling this for later to be brought back to us a little bit later. How much time do we need to, how far should we stretch it out so that we can have it back on the agenda?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I think it's good to not necessarily worry about picking a date at this time when it would come back. Staff will work diligently on this to get the ball rolling. I believe that is the overwhelming feel of the council this evening. So we will put the wheels in motion to reach to the appropriate resources and get this moving forward. But as far as picking a date certain for the future, that would be difficult at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, I do want to keep some track of it. So let's just say 90 days. Would that be okay?
90 days would probably be sufficient, yes.
Yeah, if you can do it sooner, we should do it sooner, but at least we should keep track of it. All right, sounds good. That works. Any other discussion on this item? If not, we'll go to the next item. If there is one. Yeah, there's a few other items you've got to consider. So right, so the next item on the is consideration of the community grants deadline and selection dates and budget amount. If you can have a staff report on that, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Steve Leonardis, City Manager. So a couple years ago, Monte Sereno adopted a new policy surrounding their community grants, created a new process, and the process incorporates an online application. About this time of year, we make the announcement and we bring it to council and we put it out there and we select dates for when the application period begins and when the applications are going to be reviewed and chosen by council. And it all ties into our annual budget. So the idea is to essentially start somewhere around early March, and we have the date of March 1st to begin the application process. And then May 3rd would be the deadline. So on the May 17th City Council meeting, council can vote to select those who apply for the community grants. Again, the community grants, or what we call CBO grants, are for our folks in the community that apply for funds directly from Monte Sereno's general fund for things like local concert series, local theater. In the past, there's been West Valley Community Services, our veterans groups, our art docents. Those community grants go to those partners in our community that have what we call a nexus to our community. They may be in the next town over, but a lot of our Monte Sereno residents benefit from their offerings to the community, and that's all highlighted in the application process, and the items attached to the council staff report. So what we call the community grants letter, attachment 1 in the staff report. I am available for questions if you have any, but it's a pretty straightforward process. This is our 3rd year in a row since I've been here doing this. So we allocated a recommendation of $20,000 again this year. In the past 2 years, I think in 2020, we selected 17,000 in grants. In 2021, we selected all 20,000 in grants. It seems to be a number that serves us well for the size of our city.
Thank you, Manager Leonardis. And I see a question from Mayor Pro Tem Makachek. Please go ahead.
I don't have a question. I have more of a comment. I think it's worked well last year and the year before, and I think we should move ahead with it as proposed.
Okay, any other questions? If none, I guess we'll go to the public to see if any members of the public have any questions or comments. If not, we'll bring it back to council for discussions or a motion on this particular item. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Lawler?
Yes, I move to approve the $20,000 allocation and the application process timeline.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Makachek. A roll call, please.
Councilmember Loophole,
Yes.
Councilmember Turner,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Makachek,
Aye.
and Mayor Elahi.
Aye.
That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda has to do with the city picnic, which is one of our highlights for the citizens of Monte Sereno. I think everybody loves those picnics. So if you can have a staff report on that. We can't hear you, Mr. Leonardis.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so this time of year is the time of year where the city of Monte Sereno chooses whether or not to have our annual picnic and decides to allocate funds and how much funding for the annual picnic. And we do this early in the year. You know, traditionally the picnic has been late August, perhaps early September, but we do this time of the year, February, March, because we try to get the picnic spot reserved, our favorite spot over there by the YSI area in Vasona Park. And this gives us the ability, should council vote this through this evening, to book that reservation and have that space allocated. And in the last 2 years, we allocated $15,000 for the picnic. Obviously, in 2020, we did not have a picnic because of the pandemic. Last summer, August of 21, we had a great picnic. $15,000 was allocated, but the cost of the picnic was less, partially attributable to the fact that we had some food trucks that were the vendors serving the food, and it ended up being less costly for us as a city. However, there were a couple things about the food trucks that perhaps could be done better this time around. There was a learning curve for us, and there were some long waits, particularly at the barbecue truck. The taco truck seemed to move pretty quickly, and the ice cream truck was a huge success. But I believe if we do the same format again this year, and we go with the same vendors potentially, because people like the food quality of the choices, and perhaps we add one or so, we can get the service levels up as far as getting the food quicker to the residents. I also anticipate this summer there may be more attendees. In August of 21, I felt that the attendance might have been subdued a little bit due to the pandemic, and there were still residents who were fearful about going out in the public space because of the pandemic. I do believe that the 15,000 being that there is, a lot of inflation this last year would probably still cover the cost of the event, being what it cost last year. As far as activities, we may try to include a kids activity this year, hire somebody who could twist balloons or do magic or something for the youngsters that come out. So that would be an additional cost, but I don't expect that to be too exorbitant. And those were just my initial thoughts and comments. Again, this is a feel-good item, and it is also going to be included in the 2022-23 budget officially voted on, and that will come in June. That concludes my comments.
And thank you for your enthusiasm for the picnic, Mr. Linares. Anybody have any questions of staff? Doesn't look like it. If any member of the public wants to, any member of the public have any questions? If not, we'll bring it back to council. Councilmember Leotal, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks. Not sure whether this falls more in question or comments, but in prior years, the Youth Commission had done the ice cream, and I think that was a really enjoyable thing to really get the Youth Commission involved. Obviously, with COVID, that was not something that could or should have been pursued. But I'm wondering about how the Youth Commission feels about that going forward. Is that something that they want to be involved in? Should we look at them doing the ice cream stand next time? That's one thing to think about. The other is, my feeling is that we have saved some money in the years that we didn't do this, and then last year being a little bit lighter burden. I do think we want to make sure we get the service levels up. If things are really open, I think we've got a lot of pent up demand for this. So my suggestion would be that we may want to raise the budget or potential budget a little bit, perhaps bring it up to 18,000. I know everybody's good at saving money here. They're not going to waste it just because we have the budget, but we might be able to go a little more all in and really promote it and have a really wonderful year, assuming that things are open. If not, we can always back it down. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, does somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Are you approving the budget as presented?
I'll second.
All right, so the motion is to approve as the staff presented. Is there any discussion on that? So we're basically approving the motion is to approve the budget at $15,000. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Councilmember Turner,
Yes.
Councilmember Leopold,
Yes.
Mayor Patet Nekachek,
Yes.
and Mayor Lahey.
Yes,
That motion passes 5-0.
thank you. That concludes our business calendar. Now we go to committee commission reports. So whoever wants to go first on the committee commission reports, please go ahead. All right, I got the Mayor Pro Tem Makachuk and then Councilmember Leopold.
I attended the West Valley Clean Water and also West Valley Solid Waste, and I mentioned before that that the solid waste is going through a RFP process. I did receive the note from Mr. Rudin saying that he wanted to ensure that the legality of the road impact fee was there. And there's actually a study that's done every year. So I will be corresponding with him on that, but I wanted to let everyone know that also I'm now the chair of both of those two JPAs. Council Member Badami from Los Gatos is the vice chair on both of those. And with respect to San Jose Water Company, lo and behold, things just keep moving ahead there, and I have nothing new to report.
Thank you. And congratulations for being the chair and also on being the on the committees, the audit committee and the finance committee for the Silicon Valley Clean Energy. Mayor Pro Tem Mikachak, your Monte Sereno is well represented. Thank you. Councilmember Luthor, please go ahead.
This is actually, I'm taking advantage of the committee and commission report. It's more of a council member comment. I just wanted to put in for the library district and segue back to Black History Month and the proclamation. The library has a program right now in the ebook checkout with a whole lot, I think over 1,300 curated books by Black authors, history, memoirs, fiction, science fiction, and fantasy. A lot of great information. So I wanted to put in a plug for the Library District and Black History Month. If you haven't been there recently to your Libby or Overdrive account, it's a wonderful opportunity to find some new authors. And this is also something that maybe city staff could pull the information from the library district and push it out to our residents one more time, just to broaden our reach. So that's my comments about that. Thank you.
And I think those are excellent comments. And we have those little library boxes outside our city chambers. Are those being used, doing well stacked? And I don't know if people are coming by to pick up books like they used to do before pandemic. Any feedback on that, Mr. Linares?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we keep that free little library outside of City Hall very well stocked. We have additional books that we have in storage for when it gets empty. Typically it doesn't. Residents do drop off books. They do take books and then they will bring books and do little trades as well. It hasn't been as active as you mentioned in years past, probably due to the pandemic, lighter traffic, but we do keep our eye on it and make sure it's well maintained and well stocked for residents to use.
Thank you. Any other question? Let's keep going with committee commission reports, and that includes comments. I think we kind of do it together anyway, so if somebody wants to do a comment or a report, that's fine. Anybody next? All right, if not, then I'll see what I can add. Attended a city association meeting, and there was there's a legislation now, AB 1944. You may have all seen that, which basically addresses the issue on when one of us is not able to attend, is traveling and is abroad. And under current regulation, we are required to post the notice of the meeting outside the door of wherever we are going to be, and do it 48 hours before that, and disclose our addresses. AB 1944 is a legislation that's being considered to do away with that notice requirement. So if you're not, as long as there's a quorum within this or majority within the city, I think it's either quorum or majority within the city, then someone who's outside that area does not have to post their address and can still join in by Zoom, as long as the public is able to join in by Zoom also. There's a discussion by Assembly Member Berman on the VTA board. They're looking at restructuring that. He's looking at passing legislation to restructure it. The VTA board is a creature of the state statute, so the state gets to decide how that is going to be stacked, whether by cities or by direct elections. Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which I'm on the executive committee, and they are doing a $20,000 scholarship for a youth film competition for Ember, Silicon Valley. And Councilmember Lawler, I don't know if you've seen that announcement. Perhaps one of our youth groups might want to participate and get that scholarship. It's $20,000. It's quite a reasonable amount. SVC itself is continuing to maintain a discount to the PG&E rate, so 1% by 1%. Since 2017, they've saved customers about $77 million on electricity bills. Now, one thing that is of concern is the CPUC on solar energy. It is subsidized at this point, or at least there is you can sell the energy back to PG&E, but they're trying to change that. And also they were trying, they actually almost passed a we're going to pass something that would make people who had solars pay an extra $40-50 a month. But there was enough hue and outcry on that, so that has been postponed, but it's still, we may still be considered. And the reasoning on that was that people who have solar are well-to-do and they should be paying more, and people who don't have solar, they end up subsidizing the transmission lines. So they're trying to shift that, but on the other hand, it'll result in no solar. I think in Hawaii they did that, and Hawaii has no solar now because nobody wants to put solar up if they end up having to pay for it more than the regular rates. So I've got some details on that as to if somebody wants to show up on those hearings. Those are the comments I have. Anybody else have any comments or discussions, reports? Councilman Luthold, please go ahead.
Thanks. Actually, I wanted to follow up on your comment about the electric rates and bills and the information you're able to provide on that, and Mayor Pro Tem Mekachuk may be able to provide it through your connections with Silicon Valley Clean Energy and all. I'd seen some chatter on Nextdoor, people complaining about their utility bills, and number one, trying to understand them, and number two, then trying to figure out why they were so high. I had the same experience this month, a few days ago, when mine arrived, and I said, how is my bill so high? And what's going on with it? And I looked at it, and what can I do to control it? And I thought maybe I put in solar, maybe I turn my heat down. Turns out that the vast majority of my bill appears to be charges that have nothing to do with my energy use. So in seeing that, it made me want to gather more information and share that information with our citizens. Maybe in the past, when we've had John Tang from the water company come and talk to us about what they're doing and why, that was helpful. We don't seem to be getting as much public participation in these Zoom-based meetings, so maybe it's premature to bring this up, but I think it'd be interesting to have a presentation for ourselves and our citizens about what goes into those utility bills and what people can really do about it and who they should complain to about it, how that all works. So I think this is something that we might want to follow up on.
I think it's an excellent suggestion. Maybe we can look into it. Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Mekachuk, please.
Council member Luthold, could you just give a little more color as to which utility bill you're looking at and where the issue is, so that I can follow up on my utility bills?
Yeah, this was my, what I would refer to as my PG&E bill, my gas and electric bill. And I'd be happy to show it to you. I was just, again, I just looked at it and said, how much of a bill of something, I don't remember, $600 is within my discretion. And it looked like if I didn't choose any gas or any electricity, I might save $150 on my $600 bill. I think that's what I read, and that shocked me. Maybe I misread it, maybe I don't understand it, but if I don't understand it, then other people don't understand it either. And so again, that got me thinking that this is something where more education, both for myself and our citizens, seems to be in order. So I'll be happy to share it with you, and maybe I'm overreacting to it, but it was interesting. Thank you.
I think that's an excellent idea. The bill is complicated. If you look at it, there is a provision for PG&E portion, and actually most of the electricity is supplied by Silicon Valley Clean Energy in Monte Sereno. So the real bill you're paying is to the Silicon Valley Clean Energy people, who are 1% less than whatever PG&E would charge if they were charging it. But then PG&E puts in a rate for transmission lines, and then there's a rate for not using the transmission lines. So that's all adds up. And then you obviously got the gas bill in there too. So if you separate those two, is something to look at. But I think it may not be a bad idea. Maybe we can get somebody from Silicon Valley Clean Energy to address the bill and give us some details on it. And the bill is going to go up because PG&E is asked for increasing the rate by almost 4 or 5 cents. So you may not have seen all the increase yet. There's probably going to be more coming down the pipeline. All right. Any other committee commission reports? If not, time for City Manager Lenares to give us his report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items this evening regarding two meetings coming up. One is on February 24th. We're having a joint meeting, the council and the Site and Architecture Committee. And this is regarding our housing element. February 24th at 6 p.m. And it is a special meeting. Just want to put that out there for the public, if anybody is out there online tonight. And then we have another meeting coming up, another special meeting on March 22nd, our annual strategic goals. The last couple of years, our strategic goals, because of the pandemic, have been a little later than we had wanted them. This time, it's more the time of the year where we want to host that meeting because it is part of our budget process. We get the goals in line, then staff can prepare numbers to achieve those goals and put those in front of council at budget time. And then we could incorporate those into the budget. The last couple of years, it has been a little bit different. We still got it done, but the goals process was a little bit later than we had wanted it. Again, due to the pandemic in 2020. And then last year, the scheduling of our consultant, Mr. Sean Spano. Sean Spano will be joining us again on the 22nd. That is a Tuesday night, but it is a special meeting, the 22nd of March. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, future agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items they would like to see? I guess we're moving right along. Do you have any other future agenda items, Mr. Lenares?
Well, we have plenty of work cut out for us at this time, and we have a full agenda coming up in March 1st.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. And I guess that is everything on the calendar. Thank you so much for joining in today and wish you a good evening and a good night for the meeting. Bye-bye.